Billy Batson, I choose you as champion. Say my name so my powers will become yours. Shazam.
Wait, for real?
Say, okay!
Say my name.
The most unique thing about the film, the character of Billy Batson, is that there are very few superheroes that are kids, first of all. And of those, you know, I can't think of another one that's a kid that then says a magic word and becomes an adult, or at least in their appearance and their powers, but is still a kid inside. Peter Parker's is still Peter Parker. He puts on a suit, but he's the same guy under the suit. We're the same heart, Asher and I. We're the same character, but we look entirely different. We don't have the same, you know, Peter Parker can climb up walls whether he's wearing the suit or not. Billy Batson is just a kid when he's a kid, and he's a superhero when he's not. So that's a very different take on the superhero genre, and one that's existed since 1939 when the character came about.
To me, it was that concept, the ultimate wish fulfillment, really, of a kid who gets to become an adult superhero. Because we've been saying that it's kind of the movie Big, but with superpowers, which makes it even more special. And it's something we haven't really seen in superhero movies.
Shazam is a unique superhero in the whole world of superheroes because it's the first time you get to see a teen become an adult superhero. So you get to look at it from the perspective of a kid who now is in an adult's body. So when we originally thought about the movie, it was always big, but with superpowers. And, you know, that's the philosophy we had in making it, and I think that unique tone really comes through.
Right, congratulations on the movie.
Thank you.
Right, what do you prefer, superheroes or horror?
Ooh, do I have to choose? Can I do both? I mean, I do love horror movies, but the great thing about this movie is I got a chance to do a little bit of everything, you know. I mean, because this movie has humor, I mean, it has drama, and it even has a little bit of horror as well. So, you know, it was quite a dream come true to make this movie.
How much of the inner child that's in you exists in the character?
All of the inner child in me. I mean, I had to tap every ounce of what was in there. And fortunately, I guess, although much of the chagrin of my parents at some point, I have always resisted growing up. I've always kind of been a big kid and tried to, I don't know, stay in contact with those things that keep you young and your imagination and lust for life and joy, and I don't know. I love fun. So, and I love making people laugh, and all of that was certainly helped me to bring the character to life. Also, just hanging out with the kids in the movie, watching them be kids. I remember that, you know, they'd be hitting each other, knocking around, and being silly. And I go, oh, that's right. They don't have any responsibilities yet. That's why they can be so silly. And so it reminded me to be silly and just have fun with it.
All the time. I mean, you know, Zach together with Jack Dylan Grazer as Freddy, I mean, they would just crack me up. And they kept, like, improvising and changing the stuff around. So I would just do take after take because I just wanted to see what they would do. And sometimes I wouldn't yell cut because I wanted to see what they would come up with when they ran out of script.
How old do you feel inside?
I don't know. I feel like we all kind of freeze mentally in our minds. We all kind of freeze around 24 or something. I don't know that any of us think we age beyond that, but, you know, something like that.
Zach is this role, basically. He is a big child in a man's body. And he just, you know, he taps into that childlike enthusiasm somehow. And he has a very impressive physique, which makes it all the more, you know, the contrast all the more fun because he's like, I don't know, 6'4" and 220 pounds or something. So he's just perfect for the role. I mean, Mark Strong is just such an amazing actor who's been in everything, and he plays a villain so good. We actually didn't look at any other actors for this role because Mark was the first choice, and we were so happy to have him on board to do it because he plays a really good bad guy, and he's just one of those, you know, great British actors who are just come in so prepared and are so great. So like you do the first take and it's perfect, and you're like, well, all right, I guess we'll do a second take just in case, you know, something went wrong with the first one. But he just comes in and nails it right away.
Congratulations on Shazam.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's you know, the feel of the movie comes through the trailer. How did you go about capturing that, you know, the 80s feel? that fun and putting the fun back into a superhero film.
Yeah. I mean, that was really the goal. We wanted to make the most fun and funny superhero movie we could possibly make. And, we knew that at its core it had to have this great wish fulfillment story, because that's the character. That is what Billy Batson is from the comic books going way back when. He's a 14-year-old teen who gets the ability, through the magic of saying the word Shazam, to become an adult superhero. And, our touchstone was constantly, and I think you heard me say this earlier, our favorite movies from, the 80s, the early Amblin stuff, the Goonies and Ghostbusters and Gremlins. And, keeping that in our mind when we were making the movie enabled us to achieve this unique tone in the superhero world.
I mean, that's what I like. That's what I enjoy. And to me, this was a chance to tap into those movies that I loved growing up, and that had that sense of fun. The best memory? I think when we were shooting the convenience store scene where he's stopping the robbers, because that was the first thing we shot with Zach in the suit and everything. And it was just so much fun, and it was just such a relief to see that, okay, this is actually going to work. This is actually going to be great, because you never know how things are going to turn out.
Well, that's just good casting. They do all the work for us once we cast them. To have Zach Levi, who's so perfect as Shazam, he really is a 14-year-old boy trapped in an adult's body, right? So he's perfect. Jack Dylan Grazer, is just, amazing. Asher Angel, who plays the other half of Billy Batson as a kid, was also so sensational. He brought a nice, weight and gravitas, because he's a kid searching for his mother that he lost 10 years ago. He has to bring a certain weight to that. So, we were very fortunate once we cast these guys. Mark was the only guy we ever considered for the role. Just from the get-go, he always was our Dr. Sivana, but finding our Shazam was much, much harder. We auditioned over 100 people, and it wasn't until we saw Zach's tape that we really saw this is what we were going for. It's a guy who is, a 14-year-old boy trapped in a man's body, and that is Zach Levi in real life as well as in the film.
It was quite long, quite extensive. I mean, we looked at over 100 people that came in and read or sent in self-tapes, and we almost reached a point where it's like, we're never going to find Shazam, because we just couldn't find a person that felt like a genuine child until we saw Zach, who basically is a big child in a man's body, which was perfect for this, because he has that genuine excitement and feels like a kid.
We had some rehearsal time, fortunately, before we started shooting the movie, and we got as much of that in as possible. And then, just having like meals and hanging out with him and his family and kind of learning about how his brain and heart work and his essence a little bit. And we're also very similar in some ways already. I mean, we both really like pop music, and he's going to be the next Justin Timberlake. I just want to be, I want to be Justin Timberlake. He's going to be the next Justin Timberlake. Because who doesn't want to be Justin Timberlake? So that was all very fun and cool, and a very lovely way to, I guess, kind of get to know him. And then, we did the best that we could, and then David Sandberg, our director, was really just trusting him to tell each of us when we were on set, a little more like this or a little less like that, and kind of, play jazz with that. I'm just so grateful that because there's a lot of kids in the movie, and kids are kids. You never know if they're all going to get along, and they all got along, and it was so beautiful. And Marta and Cooper, who played the parents, literally were the parents. I mean, they would all go on field trips together. They all bonded. That was fantastic. But I mean, I'm really proud of them all. It's not being a kid in Hollywood is not an easy thing to do, and I don't wish it upon anyone. I'm really grateful that I started when I was 18. So now, really, my job, aside from hopefully opening this movie, and if we ever get to do sequels and all that, but my job beyond all that is to just like protect all my little cubs and be like, nobody's screwing with these guys. They're good kids. They're going to keep their heads on their shoulders, and hopefully watch all of their stars just rise and rise.
It was important to make the film feel grounded, because it's quite a fantastical concept, but we wanted it to feel like, okay, this is in the real world. This is in Philadelphia, an actual city, and what would an actual boy do, if he got superpowers in this world? Well, of course, he would film himself doing stupid things and put it on YouTube and go viral, So it was fun to explore that concept.
And we all had the same vision in mind. David, DC, Warner Brothers, New Line, we all were pulling in the same direction. It was only one version of it, but it took a lot of tweaking to get to the right place. And we drew on a lot of inspirations. The superhero's been around for, since the 1940s. So we drew from different elements, maybe the shorter cape from the Golden Age, and, the more modern look for the actual texture, that is more reflective, like, kind of a Man of Steel type thing.
That's what
because our character exists in the world of present day, so you want him, if you put him next to a Superman or a Batman or a Wonder Woman or Aquaman, he'd still fit in. But we also wanted to make a nod to his past.
I don't quite understand the feud, the anger. I understand when people, are fans of, like a football club, right? Like you want to support your team, and you don't want to support the guys that your team is playing against. Now, you guys take your football very seriously, so that can get really intense, like Arsenal and Tottenham. Like, you guys can get really, really gnarly. I've been there. I've seen it. I felt very threatened while I was there. But I don't know, with sporting and stuff like that, I can buy it a little bit more. I grew up reading comic books. I was a nerd. I don't know why shouldn't we all be gathering together and saying, hey, you like Superman, I like Wolverine, whatever that's fine, because they're all really, I think they're not all that dissimilar. Clearly, they're different characters, and there's different mythos and different lore, and they've been around for a longer, different periods of time. Superman is the oldest and most iconic, let's say. Shazam, Captain Marvel, was there in 1939, predates all of Marvel. What Stan created when he created it in the late 60s, early 70s was also incredible, and he was a kid reading all of the DC Detective Comics and Action Comics, so all of that all fed into that. I think that's all beautiful, and all of these heroes are all essentially, I think, providing a very similar experience, which is empowerment for a kid, feeling like you can see yourself in the identity of these mutants or these aliens from another planet. Like, a lot of us didn't feel like we belonged. Like, Superman didn't belong. How do you fit in? But he has a good heart, Billy doesn't belong. He's a foster kid. So I really don't think these stories are all that different. I just think people feel like they need to, fight for or defend something in a way as if it's going to be taken away from them, or somebody's going to win. Like, there's going to be a big war, and DC's going to win the war, and there's no more Marvel, or vice versa. It's like, that's never going to happen. There's way too much money to be made in all of these movies, and entertainment to provide people. So I think we're all good. I think with everything in life, we all need to take a little bit of a big breath, and a step back, and all just start looking at each other like human beings again. I think that's what we need to do.
That's exactly right. He's a character that's been around since the 1940s, and we definitely looked at his history and his legacy and drew from some of those elements. For example, we gave him the shorter cape, which is something from the Golden Age, but we also gave him the textured suit, which is something much more modern, so that he can fit in the present day with the superheroes that exist in the world in which our movie takes place. So, you can put him up next to Aquaman or Wonder Woman, and he fits in.
I think DC's doing quite well with like Wonder Woman and Aquaman and things like this, and it's just an honor to be a part of that with Shazam.
In addition to that universe,
I think so. Because there's a lot of different stories that you can tell within DC and the comic book world in general.
We really had a very clear vision of it right from the get-go, right from the moment the studio gave us the movie to make a standalone Shazam origin story, and I think we really never wavered from that.
do you see a sequel happening?
You know what? We were so focused on just making one great movie, so who knows? Down the road, who knows?
But it's been received very
It has been. It's been very encouraging.
No, we haven't really discussed it, to be honest, because for us, the focus was just to make this the best movie that it could be. Because I think sometimes if you're making a movie and you're thinking too much about, let's save this for a sequel or whatever, then you're not doing the best job you can with that movie. So for us, the focus was just on making the best Shazam introduction that we could.
It was a luxury to make a standalone Shazam movie. Just we got to tell his origin story. And so we really haven't considered what the future holds for him. But he does exist in that world where those characters are. So maybe one day they'll all share screen time.
Dude, did you see that?
Yeah, you electrocuted a bus and almost killed these people.
And then I caught it!
You can leave tall buildings in a single bound.
thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. If you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button at the bottom of your screen. And also be sure to subscribe to the Fan Carpet YouTube channels. They're absolutely free and so much fun too. Be sure to check out the official website, thefancarpet.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date with reviews, competitions, the latest news, and so much more.